Hi there, listener. We, the editorial team of a manufacturer, have the great privilege of bringing you interviews from some of the best manufacturers, leaders, industry analysts, young pioneers, innovators, and solution providers. But sadly, we can't possibly fit all of them into our podcast episodes. Fear not, though, because you're listening to Archives, a platform where you can hear these fascinating and thought-provoking interviews in full. This episode features the CEO of Make UK, Stephen Phipson, speaking to us at the manufacturer studio at Smart Factory Expo 2022. We caught him just before he delivered his keynote speech at the SME Growth Summit. So here we are at Digital Manufacturing Week on day one at Smart Factory Expo. You join us here at the manufacturer studio, and I've got Stephen Phipson of Make UK who's come along to have a chat with us.
Very good morning, great to be here.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
To have you here as well,
you.
Stephen. Are you enjoying yourself so far? I mean, it's a very
it's
early
so busy.
days, but it is.
Isn't it popular?
It's
wonderful to see it. It's wonderful to see the buzz early on in the whole show here, and really well populated, and lots of very interesting people, lots of good discussion going on. So yeah, I'm very excited actually, it's very good.
You're going to be giving a talk shortly, aren't you, at the SME Growth Summit. So could you just give us a kind of flavour of it before we hear it later?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are in manufacturing in the country at the moment, and the state of manufacturing, and some of the challenges we've had recently, of course, some of the lessons we've learned from the pandemic, and really some of the really interesting trends that are going on in the sector at the moment, as well as obviously talking about how we're going to try and resolve some of these challenges. So it's a combination of both, bit of a state of the nation discussion really, but a real focus in there, an underlying tone of why digital manufacturing and digital technology is so important to us going forwards. Fantastic. Which is why it's so relevant to this show.
Absolutely. Yeah. So historically, what's been manufacturing's contribution to the UK economy? Where does it sit currently, would you say?
Well, I would argue it sits right at the top of the priority list. I mean, it's if you look at it in pure value terms, it's worth £200 billion to the UK economy. We employ 2.5 million people. The average salaries are about 30 to 35% above the average salary levels in the UK, so they're high-paying, good quality jobs. And about 65% of all R&D investment in the country goes to the manufacturing sector. So a lot of innovation, a lot of investment going into where we are. And the result of all of that is we're still in the top 10 in the world of manufacturing countries, which is really interesting. If you ask lots of the public where we are at the moment in terms of manufacturing, they think it's one of those sort of older technologies, an older sector that's not really relevant anymore. But actually we are still in the top 10 in the world. And most of what we do now is advanced, highly innovative manufacturing. We don't manufacture TV so much in this country anymore. What we make is the real high-tech end of manufacturing. And we've got a great reputation globally for it. So it's something we should be very, very proud of, something I constantly remind the government about, and making sure that we can protect and grow this is the mission of Make UK.
It kind of leads me quite nicely on to the next question that will be, we're obviously going to hear the Chancellor's autumn budget tomorrow, which I'm sure will be a topic of conversation for many manufacturers here at the show. What are you hoping to see? Is there anything you're kind of concerned about from that upcoming budget?
I've already told them I'm concerned about a number of things in what's going to happen next. I think clearly they have to get the books balanced, and there will be lots of tax changes and those sorts of issues. A lot of it's around personal taxation, we can see that coming. A lot of it we'll be talking about what we call fiscal drag, so things where they're not going to change allowances, and that will gradually drag more people into taxation over the next few years. But what we don't want to see are really damaging cuts made to our growth agenda. And really we would be very upset if we start to see disincentives for investment, for example, which is critical to the manufacturing sector. We've had a fantastic level of support and innovation through UKRI and the Catapult system and what's happening there. Would really not like to see any of that scaled back. That's important for many of our smaller companies getting on that digital growth train or using some of the newer technologies for their manufacturing cycles is keeping us competitive. So and we need to see a balance of, we understand there's a fiscal constraint that needs to be done through taxation, but we don't want to see additional costs on business, and we certainly don't want to see cuts to things that are going to affect people's confidence and people's ability to invest in the future. If we do see that, we're going to get very grumpy, but we will see what happens tomorrow. Yeah.
This next question kind of touches on some of the the points you made earlier, and I guess it comes up constantly for us, that perception thing, and why manufacturing isn't sort of so in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? And it is a huge problem, right?
It is a huge problem, and you think about some of the great products we make, some of the cars that we make in this country, sports cars and Formula One teams, all sorts of really clever aerospace type products that are at the forefronts of many people's minds. But there is still, we ran a public perception survey about a year ago asking the public what they thought of the sector, and it's amazing. Most people thought we were probably number 95 in the world. They think of it as Victorian smoky factories, and they wouldn't really want their son and daughters to go into it. And we need to change that perception, and I think it's by working through local communities. We ran what was called National Manufacturing Day last year, which was really about people opening their doors to show the public, and particularly to show the parents what this sector's like and how interesting it is as a career. And it's so much better than going off to university and doing a graduate program. If you do an apprenticeship nowadays, it's paid for by the company. You don't end up with any debt. You probably go on to do a degree as well at the end of it, and you come out with a really good salary and a great job. I mean, it's a really good area to work in. Yeah. So we need to get that perception right. I think last year was a good start on trying to address that issue. We're going to do it again this year. Hopefully we think we're aiming for about 25,000 companies to get involved in it this year. Because really try to build that public understanding of what a great sector this is.
And opening doors to factories is really key.
And that's the way to do it. We're doing school engagement programs with in different areas of the country where we're bringing youngsters in school age into our training centre and showing them really what it's like with machines and robots and all the interesting part of modern manufacturing technology. But it's all about that. It's all about encouraging the youngsters in, because number one problem we've really got to solve in our sector is the labour shortage and the skill shortage. Yeah. And it's by bringing those youngsters into the sector that we're going to start to address that in the long term.
When it comes to confidence and investment within the sector, why do you think that's kind of stalling?
Well, we've had a couple of big hits, haven't we? We've had the pandemic.
Quite.
I mean, manufacturers stayed open during the pandemic. We did some really good things, but of course, that's disrupted supply chains. That's put costs up. We've got the energy crisis, which is important in manufacturing terms, and not quite sure where that's going. We've only got 6 months of support from government, 3-month review. Is that going to persist? Is it not going to persist? And investment in manufacturing is an average of a 7-year cycle. So you've got to look for a longer term stable platform than rather a 6 months energy support package. I mean, what's going to happen after that is the question very often. So a lot of people are just holding on to that cash at the moment and not investing. And it's a message we keep repeating to government. We need to see stability and we need to see confidence return so people can invest in those long-term projects.
But I mean, and there is support out there. I mean, you're talking about there needing to be more, but where can manufacturers go currently, to find that extra support?
Well, we've got, I tell you the one thing that's doing really well is the banks at the moment. The banks are doing a great job. They're deploying a lot of resource through their regional teams, and we work with a number of the large banks with manufacturing experts, really helping advising companies on how they might mitigate some of this lack of confidence and how they might want to invest now and how they might want to push forward. Yeah. And we do that as well through our regional advisory boards at Make UK. But there is a number of places to go to. But the local banking relationships are quite important now. And I'm very pleased to say a lot of them have recognised just how important the sector is. So we're seeing a renewed push from the banks in trying to support companies to invest going forwards.
You've talked to us about Make UK's role in helping manufacturing through some of these difficulties, increasing the kind of visibility of what's available and how great factories are. With your role personally, what is it that you're doing to kind of help UK manufacturing along?
Well, one of my roles is to speak to the ministers, is to make sure government is fully aware, and we've changed quite a lot of ministers recently, so you're almost having to start again with the whole story as to why this is the best place for UK to focus on in terms of our growth into the future. So part of my role is to make sure the government is fully up to speed, they understand the challenges, but they also understand what the great opportunities are in our sector going forwards for great employment in our country and generating wealth. That's really important. I travel a lot, I go around the country a lot, I speak to a lot of our members. We represent about 22,000 companies across the UK. We run 11 regional advisory boards. So I'm often out at the regional advisory boards speaking directly to the members and understanding face-to-face their issues and their challenges. which is great actually, because I can take that straight back into government and ask the same questions. So we're doing quite a lot there. We're very engaged with with other trade bodies. We have 67 trade bodies now in membership of Make UK, and so that helps us get out to an even wider audience than we've got as direct membership. And we have 32 universities in membership as well. So fantastic. The academic side, what's happening on the research side, what's happening on the innovation side is absolutely critical so that we can convert that. So a lot of information coming in, trying to make it into simple, clear messages, telling government what we need, telling businesses what they can do. The other thing that's really, really interesting and really striking is this idea that place is becoming more important. So clusters are becoming more important. And I go around visiting some of those clusters around the country, and sometimes it's good to connect them together because someone's come up with a really good idea about doing something. How do we transfer that knowledge into a cluster that's in Coventry from Plymouth, for example, and those sorts of things. So our role is all about convening and all about making sure people understand the best that's available to them for support.
Fantastic. And then finally, we've got a lot on display here that's kind of showcasing very much the future of manufacturing, and you're going to be hosting a roundtable discussion on digital talent. How vital is that, do you think, to the future of UK manufacturing, building that digital talent within the sector?
It is the most important thing, really. I mean, technology is great, and we talk about it a lot. We all like talking about technology, but the biggest challenge we have is getting the right skills and the right labour force to be able to deliver this growth. And particularly at the moment where we're looking at transforming traditional manufacturing to digital manufacturing processes, that means a proportion of that workforce needs to be upskilled, needs to be reskilled. And some of that needs some government support to do that, and we have challenges at the moment with the further education system and everything else. But it's really that whole area of skills that we need to focus on. And different companies, particularly larger companies, have had different approaches to that. So sometimes useful sort of sharing that experience. But for many of the smaller companies, the challenge is how do we convert to digital manufacturing without any knowledge about how we do data analytics and all the other things that go with it. So that is a real challenge, and that's why it's a valuable panel discussion today.
Fantastic. Ladies and gents, Stephen Phipson, thank you very much for joining us, Stephen, and we really hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed that, listener. Keep an ear out for more episodes like this one, and of course for more episodes of the Manufacturer Podcast. Whatever streaming site you're listening on, be it Spotify or Apple Music, be sure to give this podcast a follow and a rating. And if you're watching this on YouTube, why not subscribe to our channel for the latest video content?